So in this lesson, I'm going to give you a real quick introductions to different thumb slap techniques. I mean, a lot of people say like a slap is a slap. Sort of. I mean, they all feel a little bit different, like the artistic sense of, or the vibe of each one's a little different. But also as you get more advanced, as you start to do more stuff, the way you attack the strings opens up different types of techniques. So I'm just going to give you a couple of samples of like when you're just starting out slapping the bass. The first thing you got to do is, how are you going to use your thumb? So I'm going to show you a couple ways, and then you can decide, do I want to work on one of them? Do I want to work on all of them? It's usually best to start out with just one way and kind of get good at it, and then add other ones if you want to change your style up a little bit, but it's good to start out with one. So the easiest way to slap the bass really is your hands kind of going perpendicular to the strings pretty much, and you just kind of rotate the arms sort of like this. Just gives you a lot of power, and it's pretty easy. It's kind of hard to miss. You get a lot of power from it. It's when I first learned to slap the bass. It's kind of like, if you're playing punk in your garage and you don't have to worry about anything but thumbing the low E string. It's pretty easy to do. The problem with it is that it's very hard to be accurate with it. I mean, I've seen some cats who are really accurate and can do very fancy stuff with it, but you have to do very sophisticated muting techniques to do that, which is actually more work than just having than doing a more complicated slap. So, because you could really easily just go like just be whacking all the bass strings, and it's kind of fun for a bit, but when you're tired of making noise and want to make music, then it kind of is really hard to control this. So the first way you can get around that is you got the same attack angle, but you just kind of have your thumb a little like that, so it's parallel to the strings instead of perpendicular like that. So now you have to focus on accuracy a bit more, but you can slap individual strings. Now you notice even as I did that, the last string was ringing and I still kind of hit the adjacent strings a little bit. It's not too bad, but because a bass is so low, extra ringing strings are really noticeable. So even then, I would start to choke the other strings. Like I'm kind of gonna use my left hand here to mute these three strings, but just this is kind of the Flea style of bass playing. It's kind of got to turn sideways like this. So I'm kind of using my thumb here and my fingers here to kind of mute, but I got the A string I'm thumbing, going up to the third string. And then I can use my thumb or like wrap my fingers around to hit the G string. But then just going up and down the different strings and trying to bounce right off that little joint right there on your thumb. Kind of the hinge between your last segment and your middle segment of your thumb. That's really what I want to hit. And you can even do me a favor, play this real simple riff with me on all the strings, just to kind of get a feel of a rhythm of what it's like to do that. So that'll kind of get you rolling with that. If you can kind of keep the strings muted while you do that, that's really, really a really good start. And again, that's kind of like Flea plays like that. The guy from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, that's kind of the sort of stroke he uses. It bounces off the strings. It's a very kind of aggressive sort of style. It's got a lot of energy. It bounces a lot. The style I actually prefer, which takes a little more time up front, but actually is easier in the long run, I think, is where when you slap the strings, you rest on the next string. So you go right through, but you're aimed so that you're kind of just brushing that sharp, that kind of bony knuckle there. So it takes a little getting used to get where you hit on the strings. At first, you're probably gonna like either crash into the strings and get stuck to it or miss them entirely. But when you really get used to the angle of you hit the strings, you lean right into the next one when you hit it. You don't have to worry about muting strings as much, because the only string that's nearby that you're going to hit is the string that you're planting on, so it can't really ring out. So, and also you can come up for double thumbs after that, which we'll get into later, but that opens up a lot of other rhythmic techniques. I mean, really, this is, for me, this is my preferred way of slapping, because I think it's more effective. So the first thing you want to do is just on one string. See if you can just take some time. It doesn't matter how fast you do it, but you really want to sense what your hand is doing and work on getting the right angle, or what part of your thumb is going to hit the strings. Usually for me, it's just like kind of right on this side right there. You want to catch just enough of it so kind of like the thick of the string is kind of flush with the end of your finger, but then it's going to slide right past it. Slide right past it into the next string and give you that nice kind of crunchy bounce off the frets that you get with this. Same thing, but it's clean and out of the way, and you're not going to have to worry about a bunch of muted or ringing open strings. So do me a favor, try that on all the strings if you can. Something like 2 and 3 and 4. Next string. 1 and 2 and 3 and shift. Back down. So, 3 ways to slap the bass. You can kind of choose which one of these you kind of dig the most. I mean, you can become a very good bass player using any of them. There's very talented bass players, very famous, influential bass players who use all these styles. I told you which one I prefer and why, but they all can kind of work. And depending on what you kind of feel the best as you're starting out, you can kind of roll with that and develop your own technique from there. So that ought to get you rolling. But I mean, I'd check out some songs as soon as you can, and like study the players who actually use these techniques, and then to kind of decide for yourself and start to develop real music with it. Okay, that's all for now. Hope to catch you in some more bass lessons pretty soon. See ya.